As we continue our Thanksgiving chat, we give out a salute to a military career. Thanks for your service.
Now we should have been in the city so we could go to Midnight Child instead of being out there.
Yeah, well, I tell you, I tell people all the time. I said that was one of the many benefits of a military career. I said I don't care if you were flat broke. You always had a bed to sleep in. You always had three squares. I said you didn't have to worry about that thing. You could go. If you got sick, you could go in and be seen for free and walk out with whatever you need for free. I
Thank you.
said, and I said there was times when we were youngsters, and we'd get off of work and go to the gym and run some ball for a while. I said there was time we would eat from 4 and 5 times a day between breakfast, lunch, dinner, midnight chow. I said we'd eat 4 and 5 times a day sometime. You
Yeah,
know, never had to worry about paying a dime. You go in there and show them your little meal card and keep right on going.
that's
It,
it.
it
That's
was
that's,
it
that's
wasn't.
like I never would have thought that I would have turned into that person. You know how being a career person, well, just maturing it changes you. Uh, I was telling this about the pros and cons of going in the military versus going out here to do whatever you want to do. I said, first off, you can go in the military and get 4 years of experience, practical experience, and come out and say you got 4 years, probably get a job as again, I'm not knocking degrees and all that, but you get a degree and whatever that syllabus tells you to get it in, but you don't have the working practical experience that you've gained on that. I said, but even with all of that, you still don't know shit. I said, where else can you go and get 30 days paid vacation? Now you
Hmm.
don't know nothing. Okay. You get 30 days vacation, you get a check, you get a job, you get free medical, you get room and board. I said, tell me one Fortune 500 company can give you more than that. And then they're giving you the incentive to even do better
Hmm.
from the jump. But you still got them 30 days. That's without a doubt the most valuable thing. It's one of them things where like they're talking about giving that what is it for people that have to take care of their families or
Yeah.
take leave to take care of their kids. Uh, that's all in the news now, which I think it's an excellent thing. They should do it. But even if they didn't give us time off, we had leave to take.
Hmm.
The average young person don't have no leave to take. If their wife get pregnant and they want to be there, she's going through that postpartum syndrome thing. You can't even take off because you got to work.
Yeah.
But then you can take your time off. Plus, unless you foolish like me, go in there and pay that $30 for her meals, and your baby is taken care of. You ain't got to have no payment plan to pay off the birth of your child and all the
Yeah.
care and all that. I said advantages that you can take advantage of. I'm still not gonna push you. I'm just saying it's a stepping stone. I said even if you don't want to make it a career, go in there and get 4 years experience in a well trained job and take advantage of that. Have a kid too, and get out, and you ready to go. Plus, you got a GI Bill that'll help payments on buying a house. So it's a win-win situation when you look at it practically. And a young person don't have that opportunity nowhere else.
No, and I've always said I thought a military career, and I know there's different branches and there's different jobs that maybe not most be the most desirable, but I told people if you don't know maybe the path you want to go down, you don't know if you want to
Mm-hmm.
be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, it's not a bad situation to go in and get, 3 or 4 years under your belt and get a idea of maybe at least that's not what you want to do. You know, but I
Yeah,
said you'd be surprised how many times you go in, you'll find out that this is not such a bad thing. I'm doing something I like to do. I'm around people that I like to be around, and it ends up being a career for you. But yeah, I think it's a very good option when you don't really know maybe what you want to go into. You sort of out there floating with the breeze. Go in, get some experience, mature a little bit, maybe get a chance to see some of the world, like a lot of like we did, a chance to go and see parts of the world you probably would never have seen if you hadn't been in the military. And then if you decide that, well, this ain't for me, like you say, you can walk out with a skill that you can walk into a place and say, hey, I've done this.
Right.
You ain't got to train me. I've done this, and walk into a job. So it's not a bad situation at all. And the friendships you make along the way, just like me and you,
Mm-hmm.
that's where we met. It wasn't like we were from the same hometown or grew up together. We met in the military and have been friends ever since. And I think those are the kind of things that you cherish more than anything else, is
Oh
the
yeah.
friendship and the camaraderie and stuff like that. So yeah, it's not a bad situation at all. I mean, and I probably, like a lot at first, I didn't think I'd do 4 months, more or less 4 years. I
Right.
was homesick and wanted to go back home to the same stuff. I couldn't wait to leave. I don't know why I thought it was going to change.
Exactly.
It was like, I couldn't wait to leave. I got to get out of this place. Ain't nothing going on back here. And then I get out there and I'm like, hey, I want to go home. I want to see my girlfriend. I was thinking
Yep.
about maybe I'll get married so, she could be with me. I'm like, that would have been the worst mistake in my life. And but I was wanting to go right back to what I had just left. But
Yeah.
once I sort of
Yeah.
got over that aspect of things and got to know my way around and got to know some people and things like that, I'm like, this ain't too bad. I was having a good time.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, we were having such a good time that it took a set of orders to. Oh yeah, I am in the military.
Yes, true.
You know, well, I looked up and I was like, oh man, I thought I was gonna stay here forever. You know, it was like, no, that's hopping, but again, spreading the wings. It gives a whole new adventure
Yeah,
and
yeah,
adds uh, just to your whole growing process. So it's a thing. It's not for everybody.
no, no.
If you do it, don't go in there thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna get out," because that's what they do. That's what I did. That's what just about everybody I know did. I'm gonna real money. Well,
Hmm.
seems like every time I go back home and see them dudes, oh, man, I sure wish I'd have stayed in.
Stayed in. Yeah,
Yeah,
I get that same kind of
yeah,
thing too, because you're talking about that 30 days leave. I can remember on that little shuttle going from the dorm over to the dental clinic where I was working. I'm thinking, I got 30 days. If I take like 5 days every once a month, that'll be, I mean, I was trying to calculate that stuff so I could go back home at least once a month kind of thing. And because like I said, I just didn't think, I ain't going to be around. I mean, if I get my 4 years in, that'd be good. But like I say, you're in that state of mind where, like, at least with me, I was homesick and stuff like that. But I was trying to figure out how I could best use that 30 days and get home practically every month to go back
yeah,
home.
yeah,
And then, like I say, things change after a while as you get to know your way around and stuff, and start to, you know, realize the benefits you can get from it. And looking back, like I say, I get that a lot of time from people who say, I mean, I wish I would have and stayed in. And I said, well, just like you said earlier, it's not for everybody. I mean, you didn't have the same job that I had, and you didn't have the same kind of experience I had. But we went to an appointment down at the base here Friday. I had my Spurs stuff on, and the guy said my mom was a big Spurs fan. I said, well, yeah, I spent 10 years in San Antonio back in the old days,
yeah,
and they
yeah,
just sort of grew on me, I said, and I've just sort of been with them ever since. But I never would have had an opportunity to go to a city like that and things like that if I'd stayed back home. I mean,
right,
it
right,
just wouldn't have happened. So I mean, I always thank the Lord that He stayed with me and He's knocked some sense in my head when I was talking about coming
yeah,
back and
yeah,
getting out. That He said, "No, boy, you better stay in there and have some security, because back right when I was right to get out, our economy was in one of the worst shapes it had ever
yeah,
been in.
yeah,
The interest rates was, I mean, I paid 18% interest on a car, and that was a good deal. You know, it's
Right.
like, oh yeah, you can get it. He said he can get it for you 18% interest. I'm like, okay, that's a good deal. I mean, you think things are sort of rough now. People ain't seen nothing the
Yeah,
way
you
it was
know.
back there in the
Well, that's
early 80s.
just like the interest rate on a house back then was like 12. You
Yeah,
had a deal if you got 10 or 11.
yeah,
You
yeah.
had a deal, man.
Yeah, it's things have changed so much from the way that they were then. But yeah, I advocate for a military career as an option. Like you said, I know it's not for everybody. If you got, a full ride, or you got a family that can afford to send you to school, and that's what you want to do, by all means, go do that. But
Right,
if you're in that little bit of a crossroads where you're not sure what maybe you want to do with your future, I don't see it as a bad option. I tell them, be mindful of what you want to do.
right,
Just don't let them give you anything. Have
right.
some idea of maybe the career path you'd like to go into, something that you think you'd like. And I think if you go in with that kind of attitude and get a good job, something that you can sort of transfer
First,
when you
right.
do get out. I mean, there's certain jobs that it's only military specific that you really ain't gonna probably be able to transfer that specific job, but
That's
there
right.
may be some aspects of it that you can use to sort of get your resume together if you get out. But yeah, you get that hands-on experience. Companies are looking for people who can hit the road running, and they ain't
That's
got to
it.
train. If you got that training already, they love that stuff.
You know how to do it. These young people coming in, they need to learn. They got to
Yeah,
be trained.
yeah,
You're going to need some training on certain aspects because it's just a whole different venue. But your training is going to be a whole lot easier because you already know the language. You already know the aspects of the job. So it's a good. I had my barber asked me to talk to his sons who wanted to go. I don't know. He never did say he's a nice young man himself. His dad is, but I kept it real with the young man. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I think he's going this year, but he wanted to go. Of course, how we do it. I was trying to, hey, well, you ever thought about the Air Force? Well, the Air Force is more corporate than it is everything else. So that's where I'm going. And sir, I want to be a Navy SEAL. I said, Navy SEAL. I said, hey, how many of the movies you don't watch, son? I just think that's what I'd like to do. I said, well, hey, let me qualify this. I said, what I'm about to tell you is uh, my opinion. I said, but if there's something that you want to do, don't let nobody talk you out of that. I said, but let me just ask you this. I said, Navy SEAL. I said, what's so attractive about being a Navy SEAL? And of course, he didn't say it, but I could look at it and tell all the glorification and the glory, and all this. Yeah, I got some friends, they want to be SEALs too. I'm like, yeah, until they get out there and see what it's about. But
yeah,
anyway, I'm like, look here, man. I said, there ain't nothing wrong with being a Navy SEAL if that's what you really want to be. I said, but as a young black man, I said, you have several obligations that are not placed upon the majority group. I said, first off, uh, being a Navy SEAL is a wonderful thing where it's needed. I said, but why would you want to do that when you come back here after all that meritorious and glorious service that you do, and then you still at the back of the line? I said, that that doesn't wash. Uh, I said, I don't even know, but I said, but think about it. How many SEALs have you seen that are black that got their just due? Pretty much none.
hmm hmm
I said, so well, my thing is, and then I told him, I said, well, look, son, Navy SEAL. So you get the Navy SEALs training. What can you do once you get out of the Navy SEALs and come out in the real world? What can you? I don't see many uh, resumes or people asking for jobs for Navy SEALs.
yeah.
I said, what other interests do you have? What other things Because I'm gonna tell you right now, first and foremost, you have some obligations. Your obligations is to go in the military and represent all of those old soldiers who paved the way for us, who were slighted and told that they couldn't do, and they did the whole dance to make sure that they got an opportunity to do it, and that opened doors for you. So you're obligated to uh, uh, do what's right and to represent black men in the military. I said, other than that, you to sacrifice and put you all through everything and nurtured you and brought you up to at least try to come back home in peace.
Yeah.
I said, so the bottom line is you when I said when know that whatever your sacrifice may be would be to the betterment of your people and they will get an opportunity to get a fair shake, then I have no problem. I said, but that's not the case. You go out there and do the major sacrifice and then still your people, and if you make it back, you're gonna be a second class citizen. So I went all there with him. I don't know. He at the time he was like 16, so I don't know how much of that registered. I said, but the bottom line is, what are your other interests? And he said, well, I wouldn't mind being a lawyer. I said, okay, but he wanted to go right in the military because, he didn't got a little girlfriend now, because he wants to get married and that kind of thing. I said, well, have you ever thought about just going in and being a law clerk first and seeing what that entails? And while you're in there, you can go to school and get your law degree. But
Hmm.
you'll have a step ahead because you've clerked and I said, those are the ways you have to think about how this is going to benefit you in the end. So if you stay 20 years, it's going to benefit you by the fact that you're retired. I said, but when you get out, if you got a law degree and then say, I've got 15 years experience as a law clerk and a lawyer, I said, the sky's the limit for you. I said, you got to think along those. But anyway, I said, I'm not trying to preach to you against anything that your parents say. I said, first and foremost, listen to your people. I said, but you asked me, your dad asked me to talk to you, and I'm not gonna hold no punches. Just like I didn't hold on with my kids. You
Yeah.
got to, you got to, you got to think these things through. You can't just hope and wish. Well, I'm gonna hope and wish. You gotta think it through, and then it ain't no guarantee that things are gonna work out like you want it. I
Right. Right.
but at least you'll be halfway there. I said, so if you want to be a Navy SEAL, I said, don't pay attention to nothing I'm saying. If
Hmm.
that's what you want to do, I said, but think about that now. How many Navy SEALs out here that look like you or you see? So I don't know what he's done. I got to, with the pandemic that came out, my son became a barber. So I, I need to call my barber and find out what his son decided to do. But it was refreshing to see a young man that had something else on his mind besides, just not doing nothing. He wanted
Yeah.
to go in. If you want to be a Navy SEAL, I didn't want to distract him from that, but I didn't want to glorify.
And I think that happens sometimes too when you don't have that. You go by the images you see on TV and things of that nature, and then you come and find out later on it ain't sort of what you thought it was.
Yeah,
And to have somebody that's been there and done that and give you some idea of what. And I always preface things too. When people talk about the other services, like I wasn't in those other services, so all I can tell you about is what I experienced while I was in the Air Force.
that's right.
And it's like you mentioned, there are some good things, a lot of good things. And there are some things that maybe you like. Well, I don't appreciate being told what to do or having somebody. And I tell people, well, you're gonna probably be, unless you're your own boss your whole life, you're gonna probably always have somebody telling you what to do. You're gonna have a boss,
Yes, sir.
and you
Military or
and
not.
some are not. And sometimes those bosses aren't the greatest, military or not. You're gonna have bosses that aren't that good. And that was another thing that I say when you mentioned about with that experience. Usually employers that hire the military people know that if you've done, at least they say, a 4-year career, you've done enough that you've been responsible enough to make it through that 4 year and come out on the other side, that,
Right.
they ain't got to worry about, are you going to show up for work today? And are you going to show up and be able to work today? Are you going to come in, drunk or high or whatever to be? They ain't got to worry about those kind of things as much either. So you get that benefit of some maturity and some responsibility that people look at and appreciate on the outside, because they know they ain't got to go through that same kind
Right.
of learning curve and maturity curve with somebody right out of school or whatever. But yeah, I think you got to be able to tell people the good and bad. You don't want to sugarcoat everything to make it seem like it's so great, because if it was
Oh
that
yeah.
great, everybody would be in.
Thank
So
you.
there are some things that probably you're gonna look back on and say, nah, that just ain't for me. But as I weigh sort of the good and the bad throughout my career, the good far outweighs any of the negatives that I can remember going through. And I'm sure at sometimes as I was maybe going through some of those things, it seemed pretty bad. But I don't know of anything that I look back on and say, you know, I just hated that aspect of my career. I
Right.
no, I can't think of anything like that. There was things I just sort of looked at as maybe a irritant or something. But other than that, and looking now that I've got a career out of the way and the benefits of what has brought me. I've done a military career. I also have some VA compensation, which I'd rather not have it, but things happened while I was in, and I was able to get compensated for it, and was still able to do another federal career like you did your state career. And I said, vast majorities of retirees, when they're depending on sort of their social security and whatever they may have accumulated in a 401k or something of that nature, that's it, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I said, for people that are in a situation like we are, that's only in some cases half of what you got coming in. And I
Right.
said that makes a big difference. To tell you the truth, when I was a young person, I didn't think about that kind of stuff. I didn't think about
Right.
retirements and all that kind of stuff. That's the
Sure.
last thing on my
Sure.
mind. But
Sure.
as I started to mature and as I got a family and started to look at, well, looks like it's going to be my career, those things became important then. And I started trying to prepare for those days many, many years ago. And it just worked out well for me. I just hate to get to that stage in your life, not just your career, but your life, and you hear something about, well, you probably aren't going to be able to retire and go it alone on just that. You're going to have some other kind of income. So I
Oh
mean, I
yeah.
look at those aspects of things that I didn't think about early on, that now, between that and the medical benefits, knowing how expensive healthcare is, yeah, I'm just glad the Lord looked down on me and said, dummy, you don't want to do that.
Right.
You don't
Right.
want to do that. You want to hang in there, and good things will happen. And by all means, they did.
Well, one of the things that I always, again, I'm not in that situation, so I don't want to claim like I know it all about that. But one of the things that from civilians that I had working for me when I was in the military there, they get caught up in being on that job. Well, I've been here 30 years. Well, you know what? You could have retired at 20 and started something else.
Hmm.
Stay in there, and each time that you accrue more years and more years, you ain't accruing more on your retirement, no more than $100 here and there. If you'd have retired when I always look at it like once you've earned your money, it's time to go do something.
Hmm.
If you can retire at 20, okay, start something else, and retire at another 20. Now you got two retirements plus Social Security.
Right.
You're ahead of the game, you know. But again, I don't want to be negative towards our people, but that's who I know and that's who I love. But we can be some of the most closed-minded people that I've ever seen in my life. You know, even if you even if you want to talk finances or this, oh, you trying to know my business? No, I'm not. That's how you learn. You share ideas. That's what I loved about the military community. We talked. The vast majority of us came from places we couldn't have called home and got no advice on buying a house, on buying a car. You talk to your peers, and
Right.
about finances is not talking about your personal business. We can start talking right now about our situations and not share one iota about our personal business. We're talking in generalities and in concepts. That's the first thing. But 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 I'm saying that's how you learn. That's how you learn to prepare. And we're just not ready for it. I say all the time, we love to play the game, but we ain't prepared to play it. None of us know it all. How many times have you known? I know in my past, people used to say, "Oh, this is what you need to do," and then you say, "Well, why do I need to do that?" No, I'm just telling you, that's what you need to do. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, no, 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 you got to tell me why I need to do that. You want me to just go on your word for it when there
Hmm.
could be a subtle thing in there that doesn't apply to you that works for you, but it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
I get so frustrated with that. I'm just telling you, man, that's what you need to do. I'm like, well, that just tells me that ain't what the hell I'm gonna do.
Yeah. And
So
and and you gotta be willing to put in a little work yourself too,
for sure,
just for that reason,
for sure,
because nobody's situation is always exactly the same, and it's always good for people to tell you things. I think it's also good or even better for you to go out and find out things for yourself. And in this day and age with technology and stuff that we didn't have when we were growing up, it's all out there.
yep,
If I tell you, just like the discussion we're having now about the military and our careers and things like that, you could probably go out there on the internet and Google some things and come back with people who have very negative things to say, and
yeah,
it gives you a chance to weigh the different pros and cons of things, and you can spread that across your entire gambit of life. Whether, like you say, it's buying a car, buying a house, saving money, or whatever those kind of things are. You'll probably end up with a pretty good consensus on the way that probably things should go. And we had the benefit in the military of having those people over us that that you trusted, that you went in and you talked to, and they would give you some advice.
yeah.
And as I used to tell people, even when I was would counsel people, I said, I'm not giving you advice because I don't want you to think that, well, Sergeant Gwen said I should do this and I did it and
Right.
look what happened. I said, I like to give you options. I
There
think
you
these
go.
are options you have. You
There
have
you
the
go.
option of doing A, B, and C. There's consequences based on A, B, and C. And I think at some point you have to make a decision on what's the best option for you. But that's a decision you need to make
There you go.
based on your research and what you feel comfortable with. Because I said, I don't want it to seem like you're going to build your decision based on what I told you to do, because I'm not a know all end all for everything either. I'm just going to tell you about what my experiences have been, just like you said, be straight up with you, and then give you some what I think are viable options. And then I think you need to weigh those options and make a decision. But a lot of people don't want to put in the work. They
No,
want
they
it
don't.
done for them. They want
Well, they
somebody to tell them what to
yeah
do.
they want somebody to tell them so they'll have somebody to blame when it
Blame
doesn't
if it
work.
don't go the way they think.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And I just try not to put myself in those kind of situations where somebody can come back and say, well, he told me to do that and now look what happened. No, I never told you to do that. I gave you options of things you could do, but you got to be able to put in some of the work yourself to make that decision that you think is best for yourself. And by all means, they all ain't gonna always work out
that's
exactly the
right.
way you
It's
think. I mean,
trial
that's
and error.
life.
It's
Yeah, that's
trial and error.
life.
Yeah,
That's life.
yeah, yeah. Uh, uh,
Yes, the Air Force was good to Rodney and me. I'm sure we'll be talking more about our military career as time goes on. Until then, join us next time